fathers, and the strength that comes from a nation under God is paramount. This show isn't afraid to speak the truth, even when it's not politically correct, because that's what real Americans do. So grab your coffee, settle in, and get ready for a show that feeds your mind, your soul, and maybe even gives you some ideas for feeding your family. Let's dive in.
Hello folks, and welcome to the CJ Lester Show. I am your host, CJ Lester, and welcome back to the show. I know I haven't posted in a while, but I'm hoping to post more, at least once a month or when I have something on my mind that I need to say. But this is the CJ Lester Show, and we have an important topic to talk to you about tonight, and it is the title of the show is The Truth About Evil. It is not what you think. And we need to have a real conversation today about what's happening in our country. And I'm going to tell you something that might make some people uncomfortable, but it needs to be said. We got politicians on both sides pointing fingers. We got talking heads on TV giving us the same tired solutions, and meanwhile, our communities are falling apart. Every time there's another tragedy, another school shooting, another act of senseless violence, what do we hear? We need more laws. We need more stricter gun control. But here's what nobody's talking about. We're treating the symptom while completely ignoring the disease that we have. Politics cannot fix this. Look, I'm not anti-government or anti-law, but let's be honest here about what we're dealing here with. Remember Columbine? That happened in 1999. We had gun control laws then. We had federal assault weapon ban, and we had background checks. We had all these kind of regulations on the books. But did that stop Eric Harris and Dylan Kalob? Did any of those laws, which in their hearts, or did any of those laws reach into their hearts and change what happened inside them? Of course not. Here's what I'm trying to get you to understand. You cannot legislate evil out of the human heart. You cannot regulate hatred. You can't pass laws that stop someone who's consumed the rage and darkness from acting on it. I'm about to tell you a story of the first murder that happened. Yes, and it happens, of course, in the Bible, what I'm talking about. Some of you may already know what I'm going to be talking about, but it's going to be about Cain and Abel. And if you want proof that this isn't about weapons, let's go back to the beginning, like I said, in Genesis chapter 4 and verse 3. It states, "In the course of time, Canaan brought some of his fruits of the soil, an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborns of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast." Now here where it gets interesting. God doesn't just ignore Cain's anger. He actually reaches out to him. In verse 6 he says, "Then the Lord said to Cain, 'Why are you angry? Why is your face cast down? If you do what is right, you will not be accepted. But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it.'" Think about that for a minute. God is literally warning Cain that sin is crouching at your door, like a wild animal waiting to pounce. He's telling him he has a choice. He can rule over that sin, or he can take over it and let let it rule over him. But what does Cain do? In verse 8, now Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out into the field. While they are in the field, Cain attacked his brother and killed him. This wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't a heat of the moment thing. Cain planned this. He lured his brother out of the field where nobody could see. He killed him with what? A rock. The most basic primitive tool you can imagine. These weren't two gang members from Chicago. These weren't troubled teenagers with access to their dad's gun cabinet. These were two brothers who knew God personally. They talked to him face to face. They lived in the perfect world without a so-called corrupting influence. We love to blame today, don't we? But there's no violent video games, no broken families, no social media, no drugs on the streets, no bullying at school, nothing. But when jealousy and anger took a hold of Cain's heart, when he chose to let sin rule over him instead of ruling over it, that rock became a weapon of murder. And here's what God says in verse 9. Then the Lord said to Cain, where is your brother Abel? I don't know, he replied. Am I my brother's keeper? Sound familiar? Even after committing the first murder in human history, Cain is still lying. Still deflecting responsibility on, I don't know where he is, and am I supposed to be in keep of my brother? This tells us everything we need to know. It is not about the tool. It's about the heart that picks up the tool. It's about the choices to let sin rule over you instead of ruling over sin. Listen, I don't care what the politicians tell you. We do not have a gun problem in America. We have a heart problem. We have a soul problem. We have a spiritual crisis that no amount of legislation is going to fix. Jeremiah 17:9 nails it. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? That the human condition right here, apart from God, the human heart is desperately wicked. It's not basically good like the humanists want you to believe. It's fundamentally corrupt by sin. When a person's heart is filled with hatred, bitterness, and evil, they're going to find every way to destroy. The problem isn't the weapon. The problem is the person holding it. Again and again, I tell people that. But are they listening? No. And until we start addressing what's happening inside people's hearts and souls, we're going to keep having the same issue and tragedies over and over again. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 15, verses 19, it says, for out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander. Notice what comes first. Murder. It starts in the heart. Then it works its way out through the hands. Now, I'm not saying we should have a responsible safety measure, but I think if passing more laws is going to... But if you think passing more laws is going to stop more evil, then from doing evil things, you're living in a fantasy world. Evil doesn't follow laws. That's why it is evil. So what have we lost? Here is what really happened, or here is what's really happening in our culture. We kick God out of everything. Out of our schools, out of our government, out of our public square. We told our kids that just accidents of evolution that came from nothing, and they're going nowhere. We replace absolute truth with your truth and my truth. We've made pleasure and material success the highest goals in life. And here's something people don't want to hear. The absence of God is evil. When you remove the light, you get darkness. When you remove good, evil rushes to fill the vacuum. It's not neutral. It's not just nothing there. The absence of God creates a void that evil is eager to corrupt. Jesus himself said in Matthew 12, verse 30, says, "Whosoever is not with me is against me, and whoever does not gather with me scatters." There's no neutral ground here. You're either moving towards God or away from Him. You're either building up or tearing down. And listen to what it says in Romans 1:28. It says, "Furthermore, just as they did not think worthless or worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, so God gave them over to depraved mind, so that they do what is they ought not to be done." So when a society collectively decides that God is not worth knowing, when we push Him out of all of our institutions, our schools, our public life, God eventually gives us over to depravity. And we wonder we're seeing more and more senseless violence. Then we act shocked when some of these kids decide that life doesn't have any real value, including their own lives and the lives of other people. So when you tell a generation that meaningless cosmic accidents in the random universe, and then you remove God from the equation entirely, don't be surprised when some of them start acting like it. So, what's the answer? What's the solution? Well, I can tell you right now, it's not going to come from Washington. It's not going to come from forming committees and a task force on a blueprint panel. The answer is spiritual transformation. It's getting back, teaching our kids that every human life is sacred because we're created in the image of God. You know, what God told Cain he could have done. He could have ruled over sin instead of letting sin rule over him. That's still the choice every person has to make today. 2 Chronicles 7:14 gives us the blueprint. It says, "If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and then I will heal their land." Did you catch that? It says, "I will heal their land." Not just individuals in the land, the nation, the culture, but it starts with God's people humbling themselves, praying, seeking God's face, and turning from wickedness. It's fathers stepping up and being fathers instead of sperm donors. It's mothers who nurture instead of abandoning them. It's churches that actually preach the gospel, and I mean the real gospel, not some watered-down, feel-good psychology. It's communities that wrap their arms around the broken and the lost instead of writing them off. The same God who asked Cain, "Where is your brother?" is asking us that same question today. Are you going to be our brother's keeper, or are we going to keep pretending that the government programs and more laws are going to fix what's fundamentally a spiritual problem? Proverbs 14:34 tells us that righteousness exalts a nation, but sin condemns many people. We've been running from righteousness and embracing sin as a culture. Is it a wonder what we're seeing is a consequence? So look, here's the bottom line. Here's what I'm saying. Here's not what I'm saying. That we should not throw out all our laws and live in anarchy. No. But what I am saying is this. Until we acknowledge that that we got a problem, a God problem, not just a gun problem, we're going to keep spinning our real wheels. Cain didn't need a better rock control. He needed a transformation of his heart. And that is what we need today. We need revival. We need a spiritual awakening. And we need to get back to the basics of what it means to be human beings created in the image of God. Look, you all know I love politics, but I know that politicians cannot fix this. The media cannot fix this. Only God can fix this. And it starts with each of us getting right with Him and reaching out to our neighbors, our communities, and especially our young people who are drowning in hopelessness. That's the real answer. That's the hard truth nobody wants to hear. But the truth, nonetheless. I thank you folks for listening to this, and I want you, I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube, so in the comments below, I want to hear your thoughts. I want this show to be connecting to you, and I want it to be, this is powerful stuff. And when people in the community start to grasp this, that is where the change is going to be. And I hope you enjoyed this show, and I hope it made you think a bit of what is going on in the world today. Why the world is like it is. So stop, think, and connect with God today. And pray for the people that are struggling with mental illness and things that are going on in their life, so we don't have another senseless shooting. Go to church on Sunday. Go to a Bible-based believing church. Get involved with that church, because that is where you're going to see the change in your community. Again, thank you again for listening today. You can go to my my YouTube, which is youtube.com/CJ Chatting It Up with CJ. That's my other podcast I do, but this is my podcast where I'm diving in issues that needs to be taken care of in the United States. Again, that's youtube.com/Chatting It Up with CJ, and that is where you're going to find this show tonight. Thank you. God bless. Again, contact me again on Facebook, CJ Lester 88, and let's begin this discussion.
Thanks for being a part of the CJ Lester Show. Make sure to like and subscribe to wherever you're listening, and give us a 5-star rating. It helps with letting people know we exist. Make sure and visit chattingitupwithcj.com to stay up to date.